Hello horror fans, and welcome to another episode of Silver Screens. Today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 15 of Gravity Falls.
The last Mabel corn.
Yeah. Basically two very interesting plot lines. There's the plot line of Mabel going on a mystical quest to obtain unicorn hair so that they can cast a spell to protect the house from Bill's influence, essentially. And the other side of the story is Dipper and Ford sitting down to protect Dipper's mind from Bill's influence, and partway through Dipper going, I just want to take a peek and see what's actually going on with Ford and Bill. And when he does, there are consequences.
Ford's got portable protection because he put a metal plate in his head because for some reason it picks up radio signals and it protects against Bill, I guess. I don't know.
I guess, well,
so you head to the left and get the rock station.
The main thing with that storyline is that, my God, there are answers. There are actual
quite a few
plot-related answers, because the episode opens with this dream sequence of Bill confronting Ford, basically saying he's gonna burn their dimension to the ground.
Your dimension's gonna learn how to party. Like, that's not a party you want to be a part of. That's the party that's in the weird bar on the outskirts of town and you're not quite sure what's in the drinks and you know.
In the words of Black Widow, I don't see how that's a party.
Yeah, exactly. That is not a party. Speaking
of interdimensional portals and otherworldly beings trying to destroy our Earth,
that is not a party.
I don't see how that's a party. That's when he decides to tell the kids about Bill, and is very surprised to find out that they actually have already had confrontations with him and have actually come out on top.
Dipper's been a little paranoid ever since Bill made him a living sock puppet.
Just like he was defeated by kittens and tickles.
What's by kittens and what's by tickles?
It sounds more heroic. Or it is more heroic than it sounds.
It's just, and the fact that he just didn't question any of that.
No, I mean, like, he's seen these kids in action.
He's been defeated by kittens and tickles. Sure.
Just like, okay. And so Mabel sets out on this quest with the girls, which is so cool and fun. I loved, because this is the first time all of them have been on an adventure together, and that it hasn't revolved around boys.
Yes.
You know? So it was really cool to actually see them on a magical quest. And Wendy in this is just fabulous, because Mabel is very much into the idea of being pure of heart and going on this magical quest. Wendy doesn't even think that they exist.
Well, and all three girls are into, oh, unicorns, oh, this, oh, I want to meet a unicorn, oh, I want to lick a unicorn, because evidently they taste like your favorite flavor. Okay, Candy, just breathe, just breathe.
Candy, it's your chance.
And Wendy says, I stopped believing in unicorns when I was like 5. I just want to make sure you don't walk into a bear trap. Like, that's Wendy. She's the very, very pragmatic one for this episode. She is the one who is the least likely to put up with the unicorn's bullshit, and the first one to go for the scissors.
Yeah, exactly. The first one to, like, grab an axe when there's a shape-shifting monster. So, good on Wendy, and good on them for bringing
her. That's just how she was raised.
Exactly.
You know, she was probably not allowed to go, after the crossbow incident, she was probably not allowed to go on the quest without adult supervision, and a cynical 15-year-old is about as adult as it gets.
Probably not. And I love that, too. Again, we had another Avengers moment when Wendy has to pay up. In terms of bet $10, nothing happens. I'll take that bet. So I love.
And then immediately,
exactly. And I gotta say, the designs of the unicorn crack me up, because having grown up in the '90s, it both looks like a My Little Pony and a Lisa Frank, like anything.
There were so many notebooks eyes and size them up like 300%.
Yeah, just from a color standpoint and the way the hair was, it looked just like Lisa Frank, and then it even had a little cutie mark on there. So for anybody who grew up in the 90s, you will recognize those things, and it was just hysterical to find out that this magical, beautiful creature was in fact just a giant jerk. That was...
I love the revelation of all they can do is point towards the nearest waterfall and play rave music. Just like
with the boom chicka boom, chicka boom.
And one of them turns it on and is just kind of grooving out. And the unicorn next to him just has this flat, disinterested, I hate everything you love sort of expression.
Shut up. I gotta say that probably my favorite aspect of this plot line is that you can't rely on others for your own sense of self-worth and whether or not you're a good person. I love the way Mabel just summed it up perfectly. Morality is relative, you know.
I love that my favorite part of this plot line was the idea of beating up a unicorn.
That was true
Just
too.
because they're assholes.
I will say that getting into an altercation with a unicorn on the one hand is hilarious. On the other hand, if you've seen Cabin in the Woods, it's terrifying and hilarious.
This is a different flavor of unicorn.
Yeah, for those of you who've seen Cabin in the Woods, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know how both hilarious and terrifying it is. It's so great.
What interests me about this is that Ford had the whole big, it has to be a pure of heart girl on a mystical quest and blah, 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 in the journals. And obviously this was 1,000% wrong. Which makes me wonder, what else is in there that's inaccurate? Because these are some very, very biased accounts. And what else is there where he has the wrong information, or it worked one way once but never again, or what else is wrong?
These are all based, and this is something that we know now, now that we know that he's the author of the journal and everything like that, of all 3 journals, is that these are all based on his personal accounts, and his personal account with a unicorn was trying to get unicorn hair and getting told, "You're not pure of heart!"
Yeah.
And then going, "Yeah, I'm out of here. Goodbye. This is terrible."
But he immediately undermines, I don't think Mabel can do it. And this isn't the first time we've seen the journals be fallible, but this is the first time we've seen them be flat out completely wrong.
Misinformed, yes.
Yeah. And we've established these journals as the backbone of the series, the reference guide for everything. Well, if he can be wrong about unicorns, what else is he wrong about?
The thing to keep in mind, and you said it on the last episode that we recorded in terms of what Alex Hirsch had to say about being bound to mystical rules, you know, magical creatures being bound by mystical rules, specifically Bill.
Bill cheats.
But the fact that he lies. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see that he's not the only one that lies. And he, you know, this unicorn isn't even a big bad. It's literally just a jerk in the woods. And it lied, and as a result of that lack of information might have cost them the ability to protect themselves from Bill. So you're absolutely right to point out that the journals are filled with holes and misinformation and other things that might just be flat out wrong. And when you have a rift in the dimensions contained and an interdimensional being who is literally gunning for you and looking for any and all opportunities to burn your dimension to the ground for funsies, literally for funsies. Yeah. He has no other motive than just, it'll be fun, kicks and giggles.
Learn how to party. I am super bored where I am. We kind of wanted to do a pub crawl, except like for dimensions, but we're kind of stuck in this one, and that defeats the crawl purpose. So we are rip-roaring drunk, and we are heading to your place.
So he's Simon Pegg in The World's End. He's just getting his buddies together for a bender.
And in the process, destroying the world.
Yep. There you go. Although it is, because we get a peek, we get a tiny little peek at the dimension that Bill is from, which is called the Nightmare, like the Nightmare Realm.
It's on fire.
It's on fire, and it's interesting to think of, you know, the mindscape as kind of a Venn diagram overlap between the Nightmare Realm and our world. And it's very interesting to me because we up until this point we didn't really know where Bill came from. We just knew he was from out there, and we didn't really know what he wanted.
Turns out he's from hell.
Yeah.
Surprise.
It's interesting that it's referred to as the Nightmare Realm, and I'm wondering if that's where nightmares come from, or if that's what we create nightmares as, and that's where they reside.
Or it could be hell, and the show's rated TV-wise.
Or it could be hell. It could be hell, or it could just be another dimension where just terrible, horrible things exist.
And I mean, Ford named it the Nightmare Dimension. Yeah. The dimension's name could be Bob. We don't know.
42618, dimension 0.5, whatever.
Codename Bob.
Codename Bob. It could, what?
Bob dimension.
Yarth. Is that how you pronounce it? Planet Omicron, Perseon, whatever it was in Futurama, I don't remember.
Raxacoricofallapatorius.
What's that from?
Doctor Who.
Oh.
And Bob is from Titan AE.
It could be Gallifrey.
I'm pretty sure
Gallifrey's on fire.
Yeah, that's less Gallifrey and more Scarrow.
There you go.
Too much laughing for Scarrow. I don't know.
I don't know. It's hell.
Could be the boy with the drums.
The boy. Could be.
Either way, Bill's from hell, and he wants to literally bring hell on Earth because lol.
Yeah, because funsies.
Because lol.
Because funsies. But what's interesting about this is the history that's there, and the fact that Ford willingly allowed Bill into his mind multiple times to help create this machine, because Bill tricked him into thinking that he was a muse, specifically one that chose one brilliant mind once every century, and he would inspire them. And that's how progress happened and genius happened.
And Bill flattered the hell out of him, and if you think about it, this is a guy who still sees this really great university that he missed out on as his missed chance. So to have this thing come up to him and go, no, I only ever come to one brilliant mind a century, and congratulations, you're it, you're just that good. It's that little bit of validation that he never got.
It was like
so it's the chink in the armor.
The way he introduced himself was, oh my gosh, it's Stan Pines, the man who changed the world, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically saying
he's not
together,
change the world.
Together,
it was good.
We will do great things.
Didn't say it was good.
No, he didn't. He didn't specify what kind of change.
He is the epitome of chaotic evil.
And it's really sad that that getting a glimpse at what Bill really had in mind is what drove Fiddleford insane. Like,
he stuck his head into hell.
Yeah.
He kind of went, nope.
He saw what was coming and wanted to forget. And speaking of wanting to forget, we should probably talk about this scene, the best scene, apart from a unicorn getting punched in the face, the best scene in the episode.
He kept a mind eraser gun in his private study that nobody else knew about. Why? Why?
As a just in case. But
it wouldn't affect him because he's got a plate in his head.
No,
so why?
It wouldn't affect him because he has a plate in his head. But Bill could easily possess someone else and try to get close to him. And when Stanley came after all those years, you saw what state of mind he was in. He was paranoid as all get out. Probably because he felt like anyone at any given time could be somebody possessed by Bill.
True.
So I would have to rewatch that scene where they reunite for the first time, but I'm pretty sure he's like out of his mind, paranoid, and asking about like how many eyes you have and everything like that. So in this scene, Dipper is essentially getting his mind encrypted, which I really wish I could have taken like some freeze frames to see what was going through Dipper's
that wasn't
mind.
Just dancing girls.
Wendy.
Ignore that part.
Which
I like that they are definitely touching on it's still kind of there, and it's a thing that doesn't go away very easily, but it also shows that Dipper's not acting on it. Like, good.
Yeah,
good.
She's still on his mind, but he knows it's not going to happen, and he knows to move past that. And we got a little bit of that in the Dungeons and More Dungeons, and when he was like, maybe I should go back to obsessing over Wendy.
Wait, no.
Speaking of games, before we move on with the scene, I just want to say that the board games that they have in the house are hysterical.
Stalin. Necronominopoly.
what could go wrong? The last people who played this game didn't come out alive.
I couldn't figure out what Mabel was saying because of the overlap, but I heard Dipper's line in that was, that should take up the next 21 minutes, which is the average length of an animated show plus commercials.
And for a while, I thought that's where we were going.
Jumanji?
I thought we were doing Jumanji, and I was so excited.
I went into it knowing that it was called The Last Mabelcorn, and I saw the poster that one of the staff who works on it did. They put it on Tumblr. They have an official Tumblr where they put up like storyboards and animatics, and it's beautiful. And it was this really nice poster, this unicorn with this big floor, and you know, Mabel and the girls kind of facing it. And then at the bottom said, and also a B-plot with these guys, and just like face shots for Ford and Dipper looking worried. Like, the last Mabelcorn! And these guys. Here's the B-plot. And it is, the B-plot is the ridiculously super serious one, and in the A-plot, a unicorn gets punched. I don't know what I like more. Because a unicorn got punched by Mabel, and it was amazing.
I loved the answers that we got in the B-plot, but all in all, in terms of like the message for this episode, A-plot 100%, because that is so important in terms of like a person's validation and perception of who they are. You can't let other people's definition of what's right and wrong define what you do and who you are.
Especially someone who doesn't know you.
Yeah, they don't know you, and they pretend that they're all self-righteous. There are some parallels here in terms of what we could be talking about. They get all high and mighty on their literal high horse, and because they are a tall horse. Or they are a high horse. Yeah, they are a tall horse, and so that makes them think they're better than you, and people get this interesting idea of what gives them the moral high ground, even when it's clearly not true, and when they're the ones actually being jerks because they're judging other people. Because it makes them feel good. Because that's what this unicorn was doing. It was making other people feel bad about themselves because they liked it.
It's Wheaton's Law. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, there you go.
Talk about the scene.
This scene. So Dipper is getting his mind encrypted, and partway through, Ford falls asleep, and it's
15% through, and he is so bored.
I mean, because yeah, you can't preoccupy your mind with like a book, because then it's just going to take longer, and they didn't bring a TV down there or anything like that. And so Dipper starts wondering why Ford wouldn't discuss how he knew Bill. So he decides to take the machine and use that to take a peek into Ford's head, and that's where we find out that they made a deal, and that at one point Ford had been possessed by Bill.
Just the bit about rationalizing. It's like, maybe I shouldn't, and then just hearing his thoughts echoed from the computer. And then basically his thoughts echoed from the computer telling him, oh yeah, you should, oh it'll just be a little while, oh he's going to tell you anyway. I'm really good at rationalizing, and yes you are, yes you are, yes you are. Wow.
It was kind of like in other cartoons when an angel and a devil appear on a person's shoulder, only because it's within Dipper's mind.
It's a devil and Bill.
Well, no, it's literally just Dipper having a conversation with himself, and it's just hysterical, because we've all done that. We've all rationalized a way of doing something we know we shouldn't do. So he puts the machine on Ford's head, and we see this image of Bill possessing Ford, and that's when Ford wakes up. And his eyes are completely covered by the reflection on his glasses, and you cannot see his eyes. And the last bit we saw from his memory was him being possessed and having Bill's eyes, which those little slits are so creepy.
Super creepy.
And so we have this confrontation. Dipper grabs the dimensional rift and grabs onto the memory erasing gun. And they have a standoff, and it's just this moment of Ford being like
trying to talk him down,
and it culminates with Dipper accidentally shooting him, and it bounces all over the place. It hits him first, and
it ricochets off his glasses.
And it's only until he picks up Dipper by the scruff of his neck and goes, "Look at my eyes. See, I'm okay. I'm okay."
Glasses. Like, you could have fixed this right away by just taking your glasses off. Seriously, Ford, what the heck?
And
What are you doing?
seriously, and all he had to do instead of stepping towards Dipper was step back and put his hands up and put his glasses up and be like, Dipper, it's me, it's okay. Calm down, it's fine.
But he's so accustomed to it being his way or the highway.
Yeah, and he's also so accustomed to not trusting anyone.
Yeah.
And I like the moment of bonding that they had afterwards because, you know, it makes Ford realize that Dipper is far wiser than he was at that age, and potentially even far wiser than he was when he met Bill, because Dipper has already made these mistakes of trusting Bill
And survive.
Exactly. And so I love this bonding moment that they have where they're both at the table and they both feel like idiots for being duped by Bill. And what Ford says is, well, you know, we may not be the first idiots to be fooled by him, but maybe we can be the last.
It's like, aw, well, what are we going to do? Well, we'll figure something out. Then Mabel walks in. Did somebody say unicorn hair?
No.
No one said that. Oh, that would have been really cool. Hey, we have unicorn hair. Bless this child. And they all walk in and they're all covered in multicolored, like, blood and tears. Well, they didn't say blood, but they said unicorn tears and unicorn eyelashes, and the unicorns gave them treasure just to get rid of them. Like, yeah, that sounds about right with this crew.
And Grunkle Stan's best contribution to this whole episode is trafficking pugs at the very beginning.
Those were his only contributions to the episode.
And then
this
going,
was not his episode. Running and grabbing treasure and just running off the other side.
It makes sense because it was his episode. Last episode, he and Ford are still not really on good speaking terms, and so it makes sense that they're trading off in terms of screen time. Because until they sit down and actually have a heart-to-heart, it's going to keep being that way.
I get the feeling it's going to keep being that way anyway.
Yeah, probably.
And that's going to cause huge problems down the line.
Yep. So they are able to set up this dimensional barrier around the shack, and Bill happens to see this and goes, well, if I can't possess anyone in the shack, I guess I'll have to look elsewhere.
To me, that says go back, shave a unicorn, shave a couple unicorns, and just outline the entire town. Boom, done.
On the one hand, protecting the shack is the most important thing because that's where the dimensional gateway is.
The other thing is, it's protecting a physical location. So you're protecting anyone who is inside the shack at the time. If they leave the shack, they're vulnerable.
This is just waiting for a Trojan horse moment. And
Yeah.
and Bill starts scanning potential victims. And we know from the last episode that Gideon was willing to make a deal with him. I don't think he's going to possess Gideon, so to speak.
Well, Gideon can't get out.
He's stuck in jail, and also, there's no way they'd let him in the shack, so he would have to force his way in anyway. So chances are he's going to get somebody who is much less inconspicuous.
We saw Lazy Susan, we saw the news reporter, we saw one of the FBI guys, actually. Did we see Seuss's girlfriend?
I don't recall. They went through a bunch of characters, but the very last frame, it looked like Toby upside down. And maybe, you know, when they do the book page as the very last frame, it looks like Toby upside down. And maybe I'm crazy.
I read that as Grunkle Stan upside down.
Really?
One of them upside down with the glasses and everything.
The guy with the turkey baster.
It's something. It's something.
Well, point being is that he's going to pick somebody who is, who's inconspicuous, and he's just going to waltz on in there one day.
Oh yeah.
Unless this is a really good barrier and it would just bounce off anybody who happened to be possessed. I don't know, maybe it's vampire rules. Maybe if you get invited, you're allowed in. I don't know.
I honestly think it's a barrier thing. That they're just stripping out.
I would hope so. I would hope that they'd be smart enough to think about that.
Then again, we don't know what the rules are for this.
No, and even if Bill were to explain it, he'd be lying. So, you know,
and even if Ford were to explain it, he could be wrong.
He could be wrong. And I really like that, you know, like you were saying, that they've explored the possibility of him being wrong.
I like that Mabel did call him Grunkle Ford at the end of the episode, partially because he reaffirmed her being a good person, because you protected your family, you're a good person, and she tears up and goes, oh, thank you, Grunkle Ford, and I'm like, whoa, he got the Grunkle. That doesn't
but I've learned around that.
You have to earn that title, and in her
By
eyes,
punching a pterodactyl or something.
and in her eyes, Ford has. It's a term of affection, and Dipper's still calling him Great Uncle Ford, and that's different.
It's yeah, they have a very formal relationship right now because and we were talking about this before we started recording, but Dipper probably respects Ford more than he respects Stan.
Oh, Dipper's still in idol worship mode.
Exactly.
One of the thoughts was, I can't believe I'm with the author.
Exactly.
He's your great uncle, dear heart. Breathe.
And so it's less of thinking of him as great uncle and still the author. And so yeah, there's a lot of starstruckness in there. And also the fact that he and Grunkle Stan aren't on good terms. And the fact that they, for the longest time, they didn't know they had a second uncle.
Yeah.
So so there's still a little bit of separation there, but they are bonding. But it's a different type of bond than they have with Grunkle Stan. And I really did enjoy the moment with Mabel as well because again, you know, they are two sides of the same coin, Dipper and Mabel, and same with Grunkle Stan and
Ford.
And Ford.
Same with Stan and Ford, yeah.
Exactly. And so, and to see them like being torn apart, it's really nice to see Ford affirm Mabel as a person because he and Stan were torn apart.
Yeah.
Or more like drove each other apart.
And Mabel is much more like Stan.
Exactly. So I very much appreciate any moment like that because I would hope that like the kids wouldn't have to pick sides.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be pretty awful. That basically sums it up for this episode. Do you have any other thoughts or predictions about the next one?
No, I just enjoyed the heck out of it. The next one, we do have a title, and we do have, I don't know if we have
a date?
I think the date was one of the ones that was announced at Comic-Con, but I don't remember it right off the top of my head. Aside from that, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows where we go from there?
And this was the episode where Dipper was reading the cipher files, so I don't know how much from Comic-Con, you know, what else there is to see that was teased at Comic-Con.
Honestly, a lot of the sizzle reel at Comic-Con was in this episode. The bill-shaped crop circle, which freaked me right the hell out. The cipher file thing, the unicorn. There's a lot of the sizzle reel was here.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes now that we don't really have any more teasers. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Katie, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Kiaxet, Kiaxet.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at TheMenguin, that's TheMenguin. And actually, Silver Screams is now on social media. We have a Twitter and a Facebook page, and the Twitter page is silver_screams. So be sure to look that up, and for all of your Silver Scream updates, or if you just want to see fun horror movie things tweeted out.
Tell us what your favorite scary movie is.
Yes, please do. I already have some ideas for some movies to cover in the future, but I want to hear what you guys want to hear about. So in the comments below, let us know what you thought about the episode, and let us know what movies you want to hear about in the future. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you all next time.